Look, before we get into today's episode, I want to take a moment to share something personal, something real special. Now, first of all, people always ask me how I bounce back, you know, how I navigated being an ex-offender, right? And, you know, all the barriers, all that stigma. How did you find your foot? And I tell them the truth. Very proud to say that my journey was powered by the man in the chair. That's right. And his name is Paris Saunders, my brother, soon to be co-host, and a force to be reckoned with. Now, I met him after returning home from Germany, and I was trying to make sense of who I was outside of the system, the military system, that is. But he was the one who really taught me grace. Because here's a man paralyzed from the waist down, facing obstacles every single day, and still moving forward like nothing could stop him. I mean, he took it on like he was a old war vet. I watched him show up. I watched him smile. I watched him lead. And I realized something. If he could rebuild from that chair, I could rebuild from my conviction also. So if you've ever felt broken, if you've ever questioned your strength, let this be a reminder. You can draw power from unexpected places. Sometimes the strongest foundation isn't under your feet. It's sitting right beside you in a friend. Welcome to Life Beyond Conviction, where we redefine reentry one story at a time. I'm your host, Ed Bankston, a returning citizen, credible messenger, and someone still figuring out what it means to rebuild not just a life, but an identity. On this show, we'll bring you stories that challenge the stigma, uplift the struggle, and remind the world your past may shape you, but it doesn't define you. This is Life Beyond Conviction. Let's get into it. Now, today's episode is about storms, not the kind that blow trees down, but the ones that try to shake your soul, the ones that test your will, your patience, and your mind. And most importantly, the ones you're meant to weather, not run from. I remember my mother used to say, my grandmother used to tell her, baby, there's only 3 stages in life: approaching the storm, going through the storm, and coming out. And even more so on this journey, letdowns and disappointments are inevitable. It's not an if, but when. So you have to brace yourself for impact. This one started with me thinking about something simple but powerful. You ever hear or wonder why when a crisis hits, the first thing they say is remain calm? Whether it's a pilot losing altitude, a firefighter entering a burning building, or a person hearing life-changing news, calmness is always the first tool they reach for. So I thought, what if we talked about the tools we need to make it through adversity? Not just get by, but grow. Here's what I found. To get through storms, you need 3 powerful tools: calmness, positive thinking, which I believe comes from gratitude, and finally, critical thinking. Okay, let me break it down. Calmness and patience are twins in the storm. You can't think straight if you're panicking. You can't make decisions if you're spiraling out of control. Calm is where clarity is born. Now, patience keeps you from giving up when the solution doesn't show up immediately. You need both. Now, let's talk about positive thinking, but not the fake kind. I'm talking about the kind that comes from being grateful. Now, Islam taught, us to look down and not up. And the meaning behind that was that you shouldn't spend your life looking at people who have more, especially in the social media age where you're constantly seeing someone else's highlight reel. Instead, recognize what you do have. That's where your power is. But it doesn't stop there. To really connect the dots, you need intelligence. And I'm not talking about degrees or test scores either. I'm talking about critical thinking. How do you recognize your blessings? How do you see what needs to change? How do you break a cycle and rebuild something better, right? It takes thought, real thought, because at the end of the day, you can't build a marriage, raise kids, keep a job, or transform your life without the ability to think critically. Life will break apart piece by piece without it, trust me. So let me give you my mantra. I live by this. Develop a need for change, overcome obstacles, and build resilience. And what gets you through each stage? That's right. Calmness, gratitude, positive thinking, and critical thought. That's how you become stormproof. Now you know what time it is. Get ready for this week's segment of Lessons with the Two Ladies, where we tap into the wisdom that comes from fatherhood, growth, and everyday life. Today's lesson is titled, Calm is a Superpower. This isn't just about what we do, it's about standing on it, learning from it, and being better because of it. Let's get into it.
Daddy, what's one way to practice calmness when you're angry?
Breathe. Seriously, I know it sounds simple, but when you breathe deep, you interrupt the panic. That's when calm starts.
What if people around you make you feel like you're not doing enough?
Then you remember what you are doing, and you practice gratitude, because comparison will always steal your peace.
Can kids learn critical thinking too?
Absolutely. Every time you ask why, every time you stop and think instead of reacting, you build that muscle.
This has been Life Beyond Conviction. And remember, storms don't last forever, but the tools you use to weather them, that's what builds the new you. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded, and keep building forward beyond conviction. I'm out.